In today's episode of Mystery Uncovered, we are going to go inside the twisted mind of the Zodiac Killer. We all know that the main reason why serial killers commit their horrific crimes is because they are mentally ill. Some suffer from sociopathy, others from psychopathy. But this mysterious predator wasn't driven by random urges or voices in his head. He knew exactly what he was doing. The question which has remained unanswered until today is, what was the Zodiac Killer thinking? He took pleasure in the power, in the control, and in the fear he created. Unlike most serial killers, his methods constantly changed. That unpredictability made him impossible to profile and nearly impossible to catch. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button for more psychology videos. Let's start with the basics. The Zodiac Killer operated between 1968 and 1969 in Northern California. Over those years, he claimed to have murdered 37 people, though only 5 can be solidly connected to him. But even those attacks shared few similarities. He targeted couples and lone individuals. He used a variety of weapons, including guns, knives, and even a garrote, and his motives seemed purely sadistic. Unlike most serial killers who pick victims matching specific criteria, Zodiac appeared to choose at random. In fact, his preferred method of murder changed with unnerving regularity. For instance, he sometimes surprised his victims, other times he lured them into isolated spots. He even went after law enforcement personnel, taunting them directly. And now let's look at his true motivation. The power of fear. The Zodiac Killer didn't just kill, he played a game. His letters and cryptic ciphers taunted police and newspapers, daring them to solve his riddles. He wanted to show the world that he was in control, not law enforcement, not society, not even his victims. He relished in being feared. Fear became his tool, his weapon, and his legacy. When caught, he wanted to be known as the one who struck terror, whose shadow alone could instill dread. Interestingly, none of his victims seemed personally acquainted with him. His motive wasn't robbery or lust, but the sheer thrill of the hunt. He chose his victims based on their vulnerability and the potential for terror. His first confirmed victim was David Faraday, a high school graduate. The second was Betty Lou Jensen, who was attending a community college. Both were dating, both were parked in secluded spots, and both were attacked without warning. There was no connection between the couple and the killer. He chose them for one reason: to demonstrate his dominance over anyone who dared to fall in love. As time passed, his boldness grew. He progressed from random attacks to targeted intimidation. For instance, in 1969, he wrote a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle boasting about his exploits. It was signed, The Zodiac. This marked the beginning of his public game. He wanted the entire city to tremble at his mere mention. He wrote, "Dear editor, I want to tell you about a little game I played last night with some friends of mine, how we had fun. You see, we went to the docks and picked up a small sailboat and dropped it into the bay. Then we got in the boat and sailed around looking for someone to kill. It was pretty easy to find our victims. All we did was drive along the beach roads looking for parked cars. When we found them, we broke the windows and yelled and screamed as loud as we could. The people in the cars would then run out of the beach shack on the beach and jump into their cars and drive off. Boy, did we have fun laughing at them. We chased a few of them along the road and then finally picked our victim. It was a girl. We took her out into the bay and had a lot of fun with her before we let her go. I stabbed her 10 to 15 times, and she will probably be in the hospital for a long time, but it was a lot of fun." This wasn't just a madman boasting. It was a psychological operation. He was conditioning the city for his arrival. Like a boxer sizing up his opponent, he was telling San Francisco to brace for impact. Next, he turned his attention to the authorities. He specifically targeted law enforcement officers and sent letters describing his plans. He was testing them, ensuring they were aware of his prowess. He was no longer hiding. He was declaring his presence with every passing letter. But why? What was the deeper psychology at play here? Why was he not satisfied with just killing? The answer lies in something called the personality of a predator. At the heart of every successful predator is a cunning mind. This doesn't necessarily mean high intelligence. It means intelligence in adapting, learning, and exploiting weaknesses. The Zodiac Killer demonstrated this through his evolving methods. He wasn't predictable, and that made him almost untraceable. He carefully selected locations for his attacks, often isolating himself beforehand to scout areas. He also meticulously planned his escapes, choosing routes where he could evade the police. The sheer level of thought put into each step ensured his survival. Secondly, predators often come from environments that teach them early life lessons. In the case of the Zodiac Killer, while his background is unknown, it's believed he grew up in an unstable household. His father abandoned the family, leaving his mother to raise him and his brother alone. This early exposure to abandonment and likely neglect led to a skewed view of relationships. He saw them as unstable and potentially threatening, leading to his targeting of couples. It's also believed that his mother's subsequent marriage to a strict man further influenced him, possibly contributing to his desire for control and power. His adoptive father worked as a shoe salesman, suggesting a middle-class upbringing, yet one marked by emotional detachment. The lack of warmth and intimacy may have pushed the young Arthur to seek such feelings through sinister means. Another factor that contributed to the formation of his mindset was his service in Vietnam. It's speculated that the horrors of war influenced him deeply, shaping his perception of human nature and instilling a jaded worldview. The dehumanization inherent in combat, where soldiers become faceless targets, might have echoed in his later choice of victims. And lastly, his obsessive nature played a key role. He fixated on symbols like the crosshairs, aligning them with his pursuit of death. This symbol wasn't just about marksmanship. It represented his desire to target and eliminate, to single out and destroy. His fixation on the occult and mystical added another layer. It symbolized control over randomness, over fate itself. He saw himself as orchestrating events, manipulating forces beyond mortal understanding. All these factors combine to form the makings of a predator. But what makes him truly intriguing is the question: how does a person go from troubled upbringing to becoming a cipher-sending, cryptic leader-writing vigilante? We can start by acknowledging that serial killers rarely fit into neat categories. They defy conventional profiling and resist easy explanations. Yet patterns do emerge and commonalities appear. In the case of the Zodiac Killer, the idea of a vigilante comes to the forefront. But what drives someone to become a vigilante? At its core, it's the desire for justice, a belief that one is correcting societal wrongs. However, this sense of justice is distorted, personalized, and often violent. The Zodiac Killer exemplified this. He saw himself as purging the world of love and relationships, deeming them inherently flawed, but his actions were far from corrective. They were self-serving and destructive. He wasn't serving a higher purpose. He was gratifying personal demons. His letters to the press, especially the ones containing ciphers, are a testament to this. They weren't mere boasts. They were taunts. He wanted to be seen as smarter, more capable, as if he was challenging the very institutions meant to capture him. Another aspect of his psyche was his fascination with death. It wasn't just that he enjoyed killing. He was intrigued by the process, by the mechanics of it. This morbid curiosity often leads individuals to seek out macabre knowledge. In his case, it manifested as a study of forensic sciences, enough to know how to stage crime scenes effectively, how to leave misleading clues, and how to avoid detection. This brings us to another critical point. Serial killers often lead double lives. They have public personas that belie the darkness within. The Zodiac Killer was no different. While he lived among us, working an ordinary job, maybe even raising a family, he was a shadow self emerging at night. This duality is what makes serial killers so terrifying. They can be our neighbors, friends, or colleagues, and we'd never know. Lastly, it's crucial to understand that serial killers don't fit neatly into mental health categories. While they display a range of disorders, from antisocial to narcissistic to psychopathic, it's their unique blend of traits that makes them who they are. So what was the Zodiac Killer thinking? He was thinking like a hunter, stalking his prey. He was thinking like a god, playing with his creation. He was thinking like an artist, creating a masterpiece of fear. But ultimately, he was thinking like a coward. Because despite his boasts, he too was afraid. Afraid of the darkness within him, afraid of the monster he created, and ultimately afraid of the consequences of his actions. The Zodiac Killer remains one of the darkest enigmas in criminal history. Decades later, his identity is still unknown, his codes still debated, and his motives still shrouded in mystery. For the families of his victims, the case is more than a puzzle, it's an open wound that has never fully healed. Perhaps one day, new evidence will bring closure. Until then, the Zodiac Killer's legacy continues to haunt true crime investigators and mystery seekers alike. Thank you for watching Mystery Uncovered. If you want more stories of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below.